currently the education system, the higher education system in America is in crisis because it's run by a bunch of crazy people, basically. And a lot of them don't believe in some things that have actually proved out to be pretty helpful over the years, like grades. Would you like to issue in our next topic?
Yes. As the viewers may know, Don and Brederick both attended the August University of Michigan. And this institution has recently decided to suspend grades for all freshmen in the School of Literature, Science, and the Arts. So this deserves a little specification, especially for those that didn't go to this school and understand the different schools within University of Michigan. But basically, to elaborate further, the university decided that not having grades freshman year would address a mental health crisis among their students.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know where to go from here because there's so many directions. Well, let's point out first that I was in this said school, and I probably would have benefited from not having grades my freshman year. Brederick was on North Campus with the engineers, and my understanding is the engineering school is not doing this. They're probably actually going to force everyone to do some kind of heat transfer class as a freshman, just as, an added level of
just
abuse. Yeah.
Well, I can say a few things here because I actually do have an opinion on this. And so LS&A, Literature, Science, and Arts, or as engineers used to call it, LS and Play, okay, which makes no sense because any engineer will tell you the hardest classes that they have to take in their first 2 years are LS&A classes because it includes such simple-minded departments as mathematics, physics,
I forgot those are in LS&A.
Economics. Those are 4 majors right there. None of those are clown show majors. None of them. Those are like Nobel laureates, okay? Ted Kaczynski was a University of Michigan LS and Play student, just to give us a throwback. Like, it wasn't really serious because everyone knew that math was really hard. And Michigan is a punching above its weight in terms of like a big state school mathematics program. It doesn't make any sense, but in terms of like joking and making fun of LS&A, because they do very, very serious work, and it is a major university. Now, I am on the complete opposite side of this. I think removing grades is a terrible idea. And I say this as someone whose freshman year at university was the kind of worst, quote unquote, I ever did academically. I did not do well my first year. It was a very hard adjustment for me emotionally. I was 17, 18 years old. I was 18 when I went to college. I was 17 when I graduated, and I turned 18 over that summer. And it was hard moving away from my family. My family we were close. I moved 2.5 hours away from home. I was living with some dude in a room that I didn't know that well, right? I mean, you're like, whatever. The level of rigor in some of the classes was pretty hard, namely mathematics courses I took. Chemistry wasn't too hard. I took a couple psych classes. That wasn't too bad. But it was just a big transition for me. However, it was a transition for me, and I was able to adjust to the new level, and I did okay, even though I had a little bit of a lower GPA my freshman year. And I think that this is playing into the soft culture and playing into the, I need a special ribbon. My freshman year was so hard. Everyone's freshman year is hard.
I think that's actually the soft culture, as you mentioned. I think this is actually more of a symptom than a disease. This is the disease. The people like you and the aerospace engineers and honestly the art students who work their ass off doing
art students
wood
work very
engravings,
hard.
and they work so. Yeah. Everyone who works hard is on North Campus for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, music students.
The music, they work so. Yeah, they're literally
those people would lock themselves in rooms.
Fingertips off.
Yeah.
It's
they
hardcore.
need a mental health day.
LSA, I think that the term LS in play actually is accurately. There's a phenomenon that I noticed in LS&A where it's kind of like a capture area for a lot of like the fail sons of Wall Street bankers and other people that have too much money and their kids couldn't get into Ivy League schools. And these people actually formed the financial backbone of the university because out-of-state students, this is not just American fail sons. There are foreign fail sons as well. And I'm using fail son as a gender-neutral term, right?
Yes.
So you can have, daughters of who couldn't get into Ivy League schools who go to LSA and really don't care about any kind of education at all. Their parents are footing a $60K a year bill, and they're just there to really replicate their family's status. Replicating your family's status is stressful, especially when you need to project the appearance of being intelligent. And I think that the University of Michigan specifically, because it has such a large student size, body, undergrad student body compared to Ivy League schools, ends up being a particular. Everyone who applies to these Ivy League schools applies to Michigan, and that's where they will go if they don't get in to the Ivies, Stanford, Northwestern, the whatnot, right? Because they're like, oh, it's a bigger student body, I have a chance of getting in. And I think over half of Michigan students are out of state, and Michigan.
When I was there,
really wants that. They really want that big paycheck from the out of state students. So they're willing to take you if you're going to foot the full bill, and you can kind of make the cut. A lot of the university system, in my opinion, from what I observed, is placing people into patronage systems. So from the University of Michigan, as well as, the Ivy League schools, you have access to all of the most elite organizations in the world, right? People from Michigan are going to many of the same places. They have access to almost all of the institutions that people from Harvard do, right? Like they're going to these big consulting firms, going to big jobs in government, the CIA. They're I know many of these people, right?
Yeah. I agree with you.
I think you also have this large body of people who are just there to, I don't know, party.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, just anecdotally,
there are people that work hard.
Kids.
There are people that work hard.
I actually have a model for this, and I'll tell you that. So, like, what happens is actually, due to many, many reasons, if you go to basically any major university in the United States and you take out the top like 0.1%, they're actually all in the same stratosphere of competence. I'm talking about the top 0.1%, because there are many reasons. You just listed a few of them, but there are many reasons that everybody just can't go to Harvard. And there's a lot of reasons that people stay in state, or people stay at some of these maybe less nameplate schools, but are just as competent and are just as driven and work just as hard. So that top part often is equal across the board. Now at Harvard, if you go to the bottom 0.1%, and I know they've got all these crazy legacy things and this, that, and the other, and they even have a whole problem with admitting people who are completely underqualified to go there now. But like on average, if you were to pull out, let's say, the 20th percentile student, that person is still highly, highly competent. Versus at some of these bigger state schools, you pull out that 20th percent person and you genuinely wonder what they're doing with their lives. And they're just, like what you said, they're partying, I have to go to school, whatever.
You know what I noticed, though? I met almost no one that I met. And I met a lot of people at Michigan because I unfortunately did socialize too much to the detriment of my education. But that's okay. I met a lot of people. And almost every single person was from a super zip. Almost every single person was from a super zip and were from a wealthy background. Yes.
Oh, dude, I knew many people that were not that way. We must have had very different sampling bias.
Yes, probably.
But it could also be what you studied. You studied something different than I did. I was also very involved in like some different like religious communities at the time. And also I was involved in some like physical social clubs. So like for example, I was really big into rock climbing, and I knew a lot of people that were very low income in that community
Well, that's
specifically.
good. That makes me happy that is a thing, because I became convinced that the university was solely its sole job was to kind of be a resort
Dude,
for the children of Wall Street.
Dude, I just remembered I actually met a guy. I not met a guy. Like I knew him quite well. I wouldn't call him a friend. He actually made me a little uncomfortable due to some reasons I'm not going to get in on the podcast.
Right.
But he was a full-blooded Navajo from New Mexico. And he was on a full ride in Michigan. That guy was probably the poorest guy I may have ever met. It was like incredible. He had no resources at all.
I would love to see the university system do more of that, right? Because that's
That
kind of the
makes
image.
sense.
That's the image that they project, right? It's this image of like the epitome of American competency and social mobility, right? And I think we saw opposite ends of that, but the end of it that I saw honestly made me very disturbed and nihilistic. I think that I came to wonder if like the people like you just described were just for lack of a better word, tokenized, so that the university couldn't be credibly accused of just admitting rich kids to subsidize their operations.
Well, let me be clear. I don't think that guy did well. I kind of lost track of him after my freshman year because he was actually friends with some guys that I was loosely friends with, and then I kind of got into a totally different social circle my freshman year or my sophomore year. But no, I think there is a lot of that going on. Like honestly, he probably would have done a lot better at like a University of New Mexico where they actually set him up with maybe it's a less expensive school, but they put him in a place to be more successful. Like pay for his apartment and give him a food stipend instead of
So,
like
like,
having him figure out whatever he had to figure out.
here's a great example of how some of this works. And I know we're getting away from the like no grades freshman year thing, but this is important. We have to talk about this. I had to
Sure.
work during during college because I had no money. So I had to work, and it just eats. It's such a competitive school. It eats into your time, and the people who didn't work just had an advantage. And I don't know. I saw a lot of that. So like, if you don't come from a wealthy background, like Ann Arbor is not a cheap place, and it's all inflated by this money coming in from these people from super zips. And so if you need to work through college, I mean, you are at a huge disadvantage to people who are like Kumon wonder athletes who just spend all their time, I don't know, trying to outperform you in these examinations. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this. You know what?
Well, I will say, no.
Oh yeah. So let me just say.
Oh, I was just gonna make a comment on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You,
Brederick.
no. You
Please
go ahead, man. You just go. We're kind of talking over each other.
You're right. Okay. I'll say what I'm going to say. I think that
I'm worried we're having technical difficulties.
Can you hear me? Am I audible to you, Brederick? Maybe not. Well, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. I am now. Okay. We apologize, audience, for the technical difficulties. I don't know. Maybe there was like a AWS snafu or something. Regardless, I think that the freshmen not having to, whatever, have grades their freshman year is probably just to make the parents. I mean, it's probably partially to make the parents happy because the parents are paying a lot of money, right? And they want to see their investment not, I don't know, go to waste. The kids, there's probably a lot of pressure on them, but I think it's also just because grades are ultimately not that important. It's not the ultimate. There are competing priorities of the university that makes getting rid of grades freshman year an acceptable proposition. That is what I have to say.
Yeah. I will acknowledge that, and grades are just a very low digit measurement of someone's competence. And I think that there are definitely many examples of people who don't have the highest grades who are actually extremely competent. But at the same time, it is, albeit a flawed system, but it is an attempt at something. And I think that removing the grades removes all incentive for people to do their best. And I think that this idea of mental health as an excuse for that is not going to hold water with me. Life is stressful, and all you're doing is just like pushing out people figuring that out. It was very stressful for me in my freshman year in college. And a big part of me motivating was I need to get good grades because that's going to allow me to do things later on in my life. And by just removing these all, and yeah, I guess they made it so it's like you can't even opt out of it. You have to not have your grades shown because they're like, oh, because otherwise that would imply that like if you don't have your grades shown, you didn't do well. And that's always the truth. And so I am completely against this on every level of analysis. I think grades should actually become much harder. I think it should become harder to get an A, not easier to get an A, because of a bunch of statistical reasons, which I will not bore you with. But if grades are going to actually have meaning, they need to have meaning. And they do serve purpose still, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brederick. When I said that, I understand this because the university has competing priorities. It wasn't in a positive light. Their priorities are things
oh no.
that, yeah. So I agree with you.
Yeah, no, I mean it's very obvious. I mean I'll just share I guess one very quick thing where it's like that's why like the Ivy League grades like everybody just gets A's, and I know they don't everybody doesn't just get A's, but like if you can, I remember looking at a study one time where they looked at like the grade point averages as time went on, like decade level data, and it's like everything just moves to the right. And it's because it's advantageous for a university to have kids with higher grades because then they get preferential admission to universities. And then those for graduate schools, or they get better job placement opportunities or whatever. And so it's in everyone's incentive to give better grades. Like in the state of Michigan right now, the public schools, it's a different level, but the public schools are completely failing. The governor, it's a complete travesty, and it's literally her fault due to the way that she ran COVID. No one seems to remember 4 and 5 years ago, but it's literally 100% her fault. Maybe not 100%, 85. And so how do they respond? Well, they just change what's passing. Half of the kids in 4th grade in Michigan cannot read.
We'll have to get into this
read
at another time on the pod because I worked in a school during COVID specifically as a literacy tutor, and it was bleak. There are going to be bleak. Bleak is the right word.
It's terrible, man. And that's part of it. This is okay. You have a conspiracy hat. I'm going to put on my conspiracy hat for a second here.
Put it on, Brederick. Put it on.
Thank you. My conspiracy hat is this. That is by design, having kids not being able to read, because then they can't be able to effectively articulate positions and they can't learn. And then it doesn't even matter what they vote. So that everyone's like, yeah, everyone should have the right to vote. Oh, and by the way, we just indoctrinated everyone with this insane propaganda stuff, and no one can read. So it doesn't even matter. They just believe everything we say. Oh, rip the lever for idiot number 1 or idiot number 2, whoever has the more stupid arguments that get you going on TikTok or on Instagram, and then doesn't even matter because you can't read. So you don't even have to prove anything out. Oh, and by the way, there's a bunch of brain dead audiences of our members of our audience and also of society that are like, it doesn't matter. Everyone should be able to vote. It doesn't matter if you can't read. It doesn't matter if you don't have any understanding of anything in reality. They should be able to vote because then they can be indoctrinated with insane propaganda.
Yeah, there's that. And then I think there's also just the actual competition with short form video. Like it's really hard to convince kids to read when they have an iPad or an iPhone.
That's called being an adult, Don.
But they're kids. We're talking about kids, not adults.
No. I'm sorry. You're right.
Why can't the kids be adults? Why can't the kids be adults?
What I meant was an adult in the room is, okay, guys, we're going to put down the iPads now. I know it's challenging and I know it's annoying, but you know what? We're going to do it. And in 10 years, in 20 years, when you can actually read good literature and you can actually digest information that is critically important to things that you value, you will look back and you will say, ah, yes, I remember, Mr. DeGear and his help when I was a wee little lad, developed self-control because I needed to do the basic skills. So now I'm able to provide for my family and actually digest information that's meaningful to me. This is called paying it forward. It's coming back to the NIMBYism, and no one even cares because it's like I'd rather just let them do the iPad. Why have my kid pay attention? Why discipline my kid? I can just put this screen in front of them, let them zone out, and then mom and I can get drunk on a bottle of wine and go have sex, and they don't even know that we're missing because they're on the iPad. It's
Brederick,
insanity.
I think it's
immaturity.
A little. Let me interject here. A lot of the kids that I worked with, the school had iPads. And
that's even worse.
The schools are making a lot of money. And I also used to work for an ed tech company. There are a lot of people making money off of kids being on electronics in school. The second thing I'll say is most kids live in a dual income household. And the less money you have, the more the parents work like dogs. And because of the liability of having your kid unsupervised, it is best to, what's the right word? Keep them pacified with moving images on an electronic device.
You know what else happens to a pacified society?
What, Brederick? What happens?
They go extinct.